Senior tax advisor Brian Johnson with the American Petroleum Institute has another side. Now, let me say this up front. I fully disclose Brian Johnson, my guest, has a perspective from one side of the aisle. But what I don't appreciate is that the people on the other side of the aisle do not disclose that they have a perspective. They are on one side of an issue. They try to come across as objective. So I will fully admit, hey, let's hear both sides of the issue, and that's why Brian Johnson is our guest. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So Democrats today calling in the House for tax increases on big oil. And a piece has been written by Mark Green, 7 Reasons to Oppose Higher Taxes. But to start with, why shouldn't these supposed loopholes, the media tells us are there, be closed for big oil companies?
Yeah, these loopholes are, quote unquote, nothing more than standard tax deductions, standard ways for our companies, highly capitally intensive industries, to recover their costs. There's nothing in the tax code unique to our industry. These are the same provisions everyone else gets. And just so your listeners know, Uncle Sam isn't taking their tax dollars and giving them, to big oil. Now, that may happen with other forms of energy, but that's definitely not happening with us.
I called some different folks, tax experts as much as oil and gas experts. And one of the things that kept coming through, and one of them has no holdings, no financial investment, no relation to the oil industry at all. And he said, Michael, as an investor and a tax expert, he said, if you look around at industries, there's probably not a more speculative business than drilling a hole in the ground and hoping there's oil at the bottom. And a lot of these wells fail. If you don't provide depletion allowances and some means of incentive for people to drill holes in the ground in a business where you can lose it all, there'll be fewer people drilling. You believe that?
No, that's exactly right. Again, simple business model, cash in, cash out. Problem is, we're talking billions of dollars. You can't exactly call John Boy's drillers to set up this operation and pay him $100 and some and call it a day. High risk, high capital. So the recovery of our costs up front and as immediate as possible is crucial to our industry. It's just like the R&D deduction. You don't hear anyone going after the tech industry or the pharmaceutical industry for expensing billions of dollars in salaries and engineering and et cetera to build the new microchip or the new magic pill. We have the same cost deductions. We don't really know what's in the ground despite all technology until we go down there and actually look for it. So our ability to recover those costs, put them back into high wages, and put them back into, securing America's energy future is what our industry is all about.
Should we increase taxes on big oil companies? That's our conversation. Even Al Gore, the man who has profited by the anti-oil and gas industry mentality and the Al Gore-Qaeda strain of environmentalism in modern America, even Al Gore admits that the ethanol subsidy has turned out to be a flop. But that's a big tax, governmental expenditure, governmental subsidy, and huge tax breaks for a process that increased the cost of foodstuffs and is not a very efficient form of energy.
Yeah, API believes that VTEC, the ethanol subsidy credit, is not needed. It's duplicative. There's already a mandate. There's already a tariff, and it's set to expire at the end of this year. So, at least there could be something to look forward to on the horizon. And look, we're talking about taxing oil companies. Well, that's not really who we're taxing. Less than 1.5% of all the shares of an oil company are actually owned by oil executives. The rest are owned by, single mothers, teachers, firefighters, pension plans, retirement. These are the people who own these plans. And look, our country has a pension problem. Defined benefit, multi-employer pensions across the country are failing. We've released a study that shows that the gains, the returns on oil and natural gas assets in state pension funds average almost 47% compared to, wait for it, only 13% for all the other assets. So we're averaging, our returns are almost 50% and the returns on other funds in these state pension plans are barely over 10%. So you raise taxes on America's oil and gas companies, you're jeopardizing all these pension plans that we're helping to shore up.
What do you say to Brian Johnson is our guest. He's with the American Petroleum Institute. With Congress today debating, or Democrats in Congress today suggesting that these supposed loopholes for big oil need to be closed. One of the things they point to is profitability in the oil industry. We're going to have an ExxonMobil executive on tomorrow to point out how few of their dollars are actually made out of the American consumer. But what do you say to people who see on a Monday record profits for oil and gas companies, and on Tuesday, shouldn't we stop the subsidies?
Yeah, again, it's an issue of rhetoric here in D.C., and subsidies is a little bit like a curse word in my book. And we definitely get deductions, and we definitely get benefits that other industries get, but we're not being benefited by being subsidized by the taxpayer. And to say one thing, excuse me, to say one thing about profits, sure, our profits are high. We sell a lot of product, and if you had a widget business and the demand for widgets was as high as petroleum, your profits would be just in line with us. What you want to look at is earnings. Now, because it costs so much money to do what we do, and because our taxes are so high already, we only earn, last year, all 2010, an average of 5.5 cents for every dollar of product sold. Now, the average manufacturer in the U.S., they earn about 9 cents for every dollar of product sold. So we're actually under the average. So demonizing our industry, well, it's just because some people may not like us, but at least let's have an honest conversation about it.
One of the tax credits I saw a report this morning is the manufacturing tax credit to the tune of about $1.8 billion in America for big oil companies. My understanding is every manufacturing company qualifies for that, not just big oil.
Yeah, again, that's a deduction that we qualify for, so it's not a credit. There's no spending outlay. It's a deduction that every single manufacturer in the U.S. gets. New York Times gets it at 9% for printing newspapers. TBS gets it at 9% for broadcasting Major League Baseball games. Starbucks gets it at 9% for grinding imported coffee in the United States. Oil and gas industry, we're actually already penalized. We get it at 6%. And so all we're asking is for equitable treatment.
Fair enough. Brian Johnson with the American Petroleum Institute. Let me ask you a question. I'll give you 10 seconds to respond because we're short on time. If you had to grade the job that, quote-unquote, big oil has done making its case to the American public, what would you give them?
I think we're working, and there's still some work to do.
Well, I'll say, because I'm not on their payroll, it's an F. As a guy that believes in American energy, the jobs, the investment it returns, I think they could do a much better job, and I hope you'll carry that message to them. Brian Johnson, thanks for being our guest. Somebody wants to defend Common coming up.
You're listening to the award-winning Michael Berry Show. Awards he earned, unlike President Obama's Nobel Prize.